Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on the mindset or the experience of codependency or even borderline or complex PTSD or post traumatic stress syndrome that can result as an effect or an aftermath of a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my empowered harmonizers. Thank you and much love to you. Thank you so much for your viewership. Let's dive in and let's get right into it today. And so we have received a lot of questions in the channel about, am I this? Am I that? I feel I have borderline tendencies. I feel I have narcissistic tendencies. I feel I have post-traumatic stress syndrome or complex PTSD. What am I? And so a lot of people are trying to pinpoint in detail exactly what is going on and, kind of trying to organize their symptoms into a category so they can have a better grip and understanding of who they are, what they're going through, and furthermore, the end result is to how to alleviate it, relieve it, and enter into a space of healing and recovery. And so I want to go to really understand that in depth and to better understand really the how and the why and the what is to look at the cause or the origin of some of these health issues, this feeling of emotional instability, emotional impulsiveness, self-medicating behavior, self-injury behavior, or feeling like you don't really have control over your emotions, that they just might be impulsive, or you might get yourself into trouble with anger outbursts, or just feeling like the seams are going to split at any time. And then how this kind of negatively affects your relationships, what you go after in life, and furthermore, kind of like how you feel about yourself inside. So, and just kind of trying to fit yourself into a category, a puzzle, an understanding of how this is all coming together. What am I really dealing with here? So let's just really look at the cause of, or the reactiveness or the results or mirroring of a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, and how they will put people on guard. On guard means you have to constantly doubt yourself, judge yourself, or kind of enter into the arena with your dukes up. You feel like you are about to take a battle. You have to arm yourself with a shield to really sort of bounce off the emotional criticism, the manipulation, the jabs, the looks, constantly feeling like you have to have a shield up and be in the defense. And this is because when you are dealing with a person who is lacking empathy or is operating with a sense of pathological self-importance, or in the state of a psychopath, someone who has no conscience whatsoever, and they will do anything to anyone at any time to get what they want, and it can be downright scary and create a lot of tension in your life. So this causes you to live in a chronic state of uncertainty, a chronic state of kind of feeling like danger could erupt at any moment. This person could be gravely unhappy with me. What's going to happen now? It puts you in the fight or flight. My sense of source of love is gone. My sense of security is gone. My shelter, my caregiver, who I relate to or is part of my family might just blow apart at the seams. So I have to walk on eggshells. I have to really, in essence, become separated from my life purpose. My life purpose becomes redirected and is now being formatted to be on guard and please this person in order to be there at the drop of a feather, the drop of a shoe, in order to keep them happy, to keep them pacified. It's like keeping a door open to abuse. So in other words, it's always your body gets so used to it that you're constantly anticipating or expecting this abuse or manipulation or negative or toxic pathological self-importance that's kind of contained in this person's energy field. And so you begin to live in a state of enabling codependency, which in other words meaning becoming so focused on this other person that you can't attend to what's going on inside. You can't attend to dreams, aspirations, increasing your values, developing a talent, developing a skill, developing an interest, because that would be selfish. It's the perspective is out of it's out of proportion to their needs. So your needs now become apparently selfish, or it's tinged with guilt or shame. How could you want to travel? How could you get something new? How could you go and spend all this time with your friends? How could you go and develop your job, your career, when all this is going on? We're battling with all this right now. How could you? How could you? How could you? So the body and the mind and the spirit and the emotions don't want to exist in this pain. So you begin to develop a hypervigilance to the other person, and this can create a real sort of rattling of the personality, belief system, and confidence in yourself. So as you can see, you become wired in a hypervigilant, fear-based state, which is the trauma bond, but it creates the foundation for all sorts of maladies, such as codependence, which means, feeling like your life purpose is meant to be taking care of people or this other person, not just helping people at large, but particularly to seek approval from this person. In other words, it's like the chronic I need to write home syndrome. You get a job promotion, you do this with your health, whatever it is, you feel like you have to report back to the space. And it becomes very unhealthy because you can't feel like you can go and move or go to another country or pursue a specific career that's of interest to you or become the person that you want to be, because you would quote unquote be disappointing this other person by living your life. In other words, they want to keep you under their thumb and keep you in that fear state. And that's, of course, as we've discussed before on many of the videos, it keeps you in a state of fight or flight, which is the limbic brain, which is the old, mammalian brain. It's 20 million years old, and part of you is based on that instinct. So if you're constantly living in that constant fear of threat or uncertainty, it is indeed like being psychologically hijacked, and you almost don't even get to have ownership over your life. So so as you can realize that this would create a whole different sort of thought pattern, which could lead to impulsiveness and create the foundation for the DNA, the chemical reactions, which lead to impulsive or high-risk behavior, which, you feel like you don't have control because you're not used to being in control. You're not used to being in control or cultivating your emotions and your thoughts, because you have not been allowed to. You have not been able to have that moment where you say, enough is enough. I don't like this feeling of anger, like I'm going to slam the drawer, like I'm going to smack a wall, like I'm going to lash out at somebody. I don't even want to entertain those thoughts, let alone have those feelings flooding my body. So as you can see, the programming and cultivating is there in the inherent relationships with, oftentimes it's founded in, your family of origin, and then reinforced through your community, reinforced through others who are like this. And so it's kind of like those people around you then, if you do not fix this, or you do not say, okay, I understand the source now, I'm going to separate my owner's manual, if you will, from that original experience and say, you know what, I'm going to live life now on my terms, on my feelings, on my peace and harmony and joy. And I'm not going to be reactive this way, because anger is generally a reactive state, which means you're not responding. You're not looking at it with fresh eyes. You're not looking at it with a sort of symbolism or meaning or way that you would productively, positively handle or experience it. So if you're very used to being reactive, in other words, your choices, your decisions, the people who you have surrounded yourself with now are expecting and anticipating that reactiveness from you all the time, where you have to give it up for them. You have to constantly put them first, admire them, give them compliments, give them affection, it's basically been a memorized sort of personality trait, or over and over and over again. So it is malleable. There is such thing as neuroplasticity where that can change. So, if you are feeling borderline, or feeling like, you can't see those shades of gray, where it's this or that, you're straddling the fence. It can never be like where you are able to be in the driver's seat and say, oh, let's consider this. Let's consider, let's consider these ulterior, let's considering these alternate ways of looking things, or ways of feeling of things. It's rather than it being so hard and rigidly cut, you can say, wow, you can enter into that state of metacognition and say, wow, look at how I've reacted to this. Look at how I've responded. Look at my choices. Look at my behaviors. This is not how I want to live. This is now how I'm no longer comfortable. This is the last time. So if you can almost give yourself like that last time moment where this is the last time I'm feeling like this. This is the last time I'm doing that. I'm not doing this anymore. And you make an ultimatum and a pact and a commitment within yourself. So you're beginning to say, hey, hey boss, hey chief, hey you, me, my deep soul, I'm sorry that we've reacted this way so many times. That is miserable. I'm dropping it right now. I'm no longer living in that cycle, and that this is the last time. Now I'm going slower. I'm being considerate. I'm no longer inhabited by that original relationship problem or dynamic that has set me up to this whole chain of events, which has been repeated and then memorized in the body, in the mind, and the choices. Because, and also, as you can see in the people, it's kind of how you've trained or programmed yourself to become very reactive. So if you can separate totally yourself in this very moment from that original situation, say, wow, okay, that is no longer around me right now. What I'm now is flooding myself with emotions of the present and the now, which is more good, orderly direction thinking, or positive, orderly direction thinking, which we call pod thinking. And I'm no longer, using my body, my emotions in that negative way. Yes, you're still going to feel legitimate anger or grief or impulsiveness, which you can tame and cultivate. It's kind of like taming the tiger or taming the beast, becoming, more like an elephant, wise and with strong memory. That's why they say the mind of an elephant is like a steel trap. They remember everything. They remember where to walk. Begin to identify with something a little bit more tempered that with which you wish to be like. So that's why I definitely recommending selecting a mentor, a person who thinks, behaves, and is decided and cultivated with that sort of personality demeanor that you admire. And just think, that's why there's a great statement, what would Jesus do? WWJD, so you can think, what would the angels do? What would a wise elephant do? What would a wise grasshopper do? Rather than feeling like you're like a jaguar or hyena, or, like something else that's very reactive, getting out of that sort of animally, old brain sort of reactive mode and getting into a more refined image of yourself. So you have to have almost the image or the picture of it first, and then keep that idea that you have for yourself in your mind and say, I'm no longer reactive that way, because that is, if you can get to the roots, that will help you. And, realize that if you have tendencies which can overlap, yes, there is a comorbidity, which means, diagnoses that will present simultaneously. Like you can have depression and anxiety, or you can have post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression. I mean, there's an overlap of things. And if you can say, okay, I am a human, I'm a live, thriving human being. I have a whole spectrum of emotions. Let's refine these now. And these are kind of like the colors in my Crayola box or in my sandbox. And Now this is how I want my picture, my perspective to look. Do I want it to be brighter? Do I want it to be calmer, stiller, more active? And then begin to develop it and color yourself, your personality with those characteristics with which you admire, from everything from the clothes to the scents to the feeling that you surround yourself with. Begin to really resensitize, as I call it, resensitizing your habitat, incorporating all the senses. So you bombard the you in the now with all those, and they will all come together to culminate in a whole new perspective, outlook, and refined core of personality, which is no longer living in a reactive state that was oftentimes set up by emotional manipulators such as a narcissist or a psychopath relationship that was previous or currently in your life. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.